Okay, now we're going to find the center and radius of a circle by completing the square. So the first equation says x squared plus y squared plus 6x plus 8y plus 9 equals 0. Well, first you want to rewrite the equation to where the x's are together and the y's are together, and you want to bring the 9 to the other side of the equals. So when I rewrite it, it looks like this. So I have x squared plus 6x together, and then I have y squared plus 8y together, and then since I subtracted 9 on both sides, I have it equal to negative 9. Now notice I left a little bit of space between the 6x and the y squared, and then the 8y and equals. We are going to complete the square so we can figure out the center and the radius of the circle. So if I look at the x's, I'm going to look at the middle term, which would be the 6x. So if I take half of 6, I get 3, and then I square that, I'm going to get 9. I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. I'm going to take half of 8, which I get 4, and then when I square that, I get 16. So I'm going to add 16. Now you have to remember, whatever you add to one side of the equation, you have to add to the other. So notice in purple, I added the 9 and I added the 16, and then I also added the 9 and the 16 to the other side of the equation. Now I've got perfect squares. So I'm going to look at the x's and I'm going to create the perfect square, which would be x plus 3 squared, because half of 6 was 3. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the y's. Half of 8 is 4, so I've got y plus 4 squared. And then negative 9 plus 9 plus 16 would be just 16, because the negative 9 and positive 9 cancel. So now it's in the correct form, and I can figure out the center and the radius. So remember, it always looks opposite. So the center would be negative 3, negative 4, and then the radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. Let's try another one. So my new equation is x squared plus 6x plus y squared minus 2y equals 15. So I already have the x's and the y's written together, which is good, and I have the 15 on the right side of the equation. I just rewrote it and left a little bit of room so I can complete the square. So if I look at the x's, I'm going to look at 6. Half of 6 is 3. 3 squared is 9, so I'm going to be adding 9. And then if I look at the y's, half of negative 2 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is 1, so I'm going to be adding 1 on the y side. But don't forget, whatever you add to one side of the equation, you have to add to the other. So in purple again, I added 9 on the x side, 1 on the y side, and then on the other side of the equation, I also added 9 and 1. So now I've got my perfect squares. So with the x's, I have x plus 3 squared. With the y's, I have y minus 1 squared. Notice the middle term is negative, so that's why it's y minus 1. And then 15 plus 9 plus 1 is 25. Now I can figure out the center and the radius. Remember, it always looks backwards. So the center would be negative 3, positive 1. And the radius is the square root of 25, which is 5.